Brand new BHHcast about to start right now. Jamie Bendel, Jamie Hernan, Adam.
No, let's just stop. I'm not feeling it today. I'm a little bit down. I'm not gonna lie.
What's the matter?
What's wrong?
Well, I sometimes worry that there is an overwhelm. Like, someone's trolling me about something I said, and I think it's being taken out of context online, and it's a runaway train, and I almost want to just shut down my social media presence. We watched this movie, The Social Dilemma, which basically says that the robots are coming in to control us through our social media, and at some point I question whether the benefits outweigh the costs.
That movie truly frightened me because all along I thought that these companies were data companies. And what that movie tells you, or that documentary tells you, is that their product is not data, it is us.
Right.
We are the product.
Yeah, there's a quote in it where they say, if you're using something and you're not paying to use it, you are the product.
Right.
You're not the customer. The customer is actually all the vendors that do the advertisements. You're the product that we're selling.
Except for our sheep. We love our sheep, and they're not paying for this, and we love them, and we would never sell.
Our sheep have an opportunity to pay for it, though, if they want. We got the Patreon page, and we got some swag up that they can take advantage of. So they're more than welcome to. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
They can if they want. But anyhow.
Did you say swag?
The swag.
The swag?
Swag bags. We got
swag?
Yeah, go ahead and check out thebotcast.com.
Both the swag and the swag.
We got t-shirts.
Swag and wagon.
We got visors. We got all kinds of stuff. We got coffee mugs.
There are times when...
Because let's face it, the only reason you listen to this is because of a cool logo. We got that cool sheep on a surfboard.
Yeah, that's the driving force.
It is a driving force.
Yeah, when you get
I've decided not to fight what the companies think I'm interested in. I figure they know better than me.
Okay.
I've reached a point in my life where I'm going to yield the decision-making to them. If you've decided that what I need to see is ads for watches and square-body trucks,
Yep.
apparently that's what I'm into.
Okay.
But I've actually gotten to where people will ask me to check out music on Spotify. And if it's not in my wheelhouse, no, I will not do it. You can pull it up on your Spotify, put it on speaker, and I'll listen to it. But if I put it on my Spotify, when I get to my Discover Weekly or Release Radar, they're going to start giving me all kinds of crap based on the music that you tried to get me to listen to. And I need Spotify to know the real me.
Oh, my God. Try sharing a Spotify account with two teenage boys.
Oh, boy.
I mean, it is the
Do
third.
you share an account with your teenage boys?
We did for a long time before, Spotify did the family accounts where you can kind of spread it out. But before, oh my gosh.
Are these your children or just two random?
Oh, two random kids.
Yeah.
Two random kids. Yeah. Who I found online they wanted free Spotify. So I just threw them my account. But no.
Hey, mister, will you give me free Spotify?
Yeah. So when we were kids, we hung out.
Can I use your login for Spotify?
When we were kids, we used to
I
hang
want to
out.
listen to some explicit lyrics and my people won't let me.
My people won't let me. I want to download.
I want explicit lyrics.
Do you remember when?
Adam, before you say that, I think Jamie has something to say.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. We used to hang out at 7-Eleven and ask old people to
Excuse
buy
me,
us beer.
I have a dirty song that I'd like to listen to. They use some words that my mama won't let me listen to. Could I please use your Spotify for just a moment?
All right. So yeah, no, it was my sons, and so my weekly discovery was full of, all kinds of really emo and then really rap and then whatever. I mean, just like Post Malone too much.
I would love to find somebody who could come on and talk about the appeal of the dirgy, teen, angsty ballad. It is something about that emo-y that I just, it doesn't resonate with me.
But didn't you get it then?
Did you get it when you were a teen?
Never got it. I was too happy a person.
But wasn't there
hold on.
when we were kids?
too much
Were
good
you a
stuff.
teen?
Yeah. Are you sure?
No, I've been 35 for 43 years.
43. It was like Depeche Mode, Erasure. Like they were all kind of
I
like
want somebody to
every day's like Sunday.
No. Meanwhile, I was upstairs with upstairs Eric
With the boss.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
Anyhow, we got a good show for the.
Can I go back to finishing the intro?
Yeah, sorry.
Egg.
Thank you. I'm back. I'm feeling better.
All right,
See,
that's
all I
good.
needed was you guys.
Yeah.
You guys helped me out.
Hey, excuse me, sir. Can I please listen to these explicit lyrics on your Spotify?
Is there any way you could hook up a little kid with
Is
Spotify?
it something I'd like to do a search term on your Instagram that I would not like my parents to know about? Is that at all possible?
I do like to ask people if I can borrow their phone. They think that I'm borrowing it to make a phone call, but then you just go on their Spotify and put some terrible music on there, and then later on they're like, "What the hell did that guy do?"
You are an evil, evil human being. And don't think I'm still getting subscriptions from weirdmagazine.com from when you previously signed me up. And by the way, I'm not selling Avon no matter how many times you sign me up.
Hey, I'm just trying to give you multiple streams of income.
Yeah, thank you very little.
Yeah.
Anyhow, what we got going on today?
We got a great guest, Gaby Dunn.
Gaby's terrific. If you're not familiar with her, she's a prolific content creator, a best-selling author, hit podcasts, multiple podcasts,
Yep.
which is probably as good a time as any to let you guys know that I'm probably going to think about adding additional podcasts, maybe.
On your own?
Hold on a second.
Wait, what?
Gabby did it.
But wait, what?
Are we going to do this on the air?
I mean,
in front of the
we
sheet?
could have talked about this some other.
I think it's the best time to talk about it.
In front of the
It's
sheep. We're gonna talk about
this. One, I want the sheep to follow me into the new content. But secondly,
Hey, by the way, Adam, remember that podcast you and I were going to do that we were talking about?
You should
doing, and
totally do it.
Oh yeah. We were talking, and I've got so many offers. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. You'd be amazed at how many offers
so listen,
you get for
don't-
crazy, handsome, and boring guy.
okay, so let me just make
I'll take that.
the friendly suggestion that don't turn your hypothetical other podcast into your Canadian girlfriend. Okay, since we've talked about emo teen years,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's okay.
I have
I'm not
another
gonna-
podcast. It's that Canadian podcast.
Your
You don't know it.
Canadian
Where we talk
girlfriend.
about we talk about Mounties all the time.
And
Universal
yeah.
health care.
That would be hilarious if you had an alter podcast called My Canadian Girlfriend, right? And you just
Gotta be what. Gotta be what.
All right, folks. So tune in.
You talk about the yard sale thing? Now I'm
oh,
worried.
we got to get the yard sale, so that's an additional
now
one.
I'm worried about you.
Let's get the yard sale ones started up.
soon,
No,
soon.
I think we may need to go
Actually,
with a
which,
different
by the
third
way,
host
no, so
because
hang on a
he
second.
may be
Wait,
distracted.
No,
So unreliable.
I've given some thought to the garage sale yard sale podcast, and that needs to be streamed live. So that always has to be a live, like maybe on Twitch or possibly on right. Just put it out there.
I think there's gonna be a lot of dead space in that. And
No way.
There isn't.
No way. I think it's a mile a minute.
We're gonna crush it
Yeah.
if we did
I think
garage sale live.
It is a roller coaster for about 30 minutes, and people
Yeah.
are going to get off it and,
Get on
and just
be
want
like,
to take
that's
a nap.
hilarious.
But isn't
Yep.
there going to be a risk that as we broadcast it live, there's going to be a rush of people to that garage sale when they see all the amazing things that are for
Okay,
sale?
so
We'll have
let's
to get
just
traffic control.
let's take this for after the
Okay,
show.
what-
We have
you-
great
yeah,
concepts.
Just
Just for once.
just be in the moment.
Just for once.
I'm not listening to you anymore.
Can you-
You are
can you
cheating
start-
on us.
can you
and
start
I'm not-
meditating and be
you are
present?
dead to me.
I'm not. That's not the case.
Yeah, I saw when the second you came in with that shirt, I knew you were cheating.
I'm just saying.
All right.
Not in it
Podcast
anymore.
is growing.
All right.
And it's time for us to pursue some solo projects.
Oh my God. All right. Honestly, we get big guests suddenly, and suddenly you're out. Like now we
I'm
get,
in.
we get
I'm in. I'm telling you, I'm
Gaby Dunn's.
committed.
Okay, good.
I'm in. We're here. We're doing this. This is gonna grow. I love the flock. I love what we do here. It's amazing.
I feel like this is a good time to say that I don't have a problem with Sammy Hagar Van Halen. Like I really don't. Like, bringing in someone else as the lead singer, I'm okay with that.
I'm not leaving.
What you just
I'm
said.
not going anywhere.
Who are you?
Yeah.
anymore?
What
What have you become? This podcast has changed you, man.
you know what's gonna happen?
The success, a little bit of success
We're
in the
gonna-
podcast,
we're
and
gonna-
suddenly you're going nuts.
Okay, that was just for what I was saying. I really don't like Sammy Hagar.
Okay,
We're
thank
gonna-
you.
we're-
Thank you. That's gross.
We're gonna be at Garage Sale Live. We're gonna be on Twitch with it. It's going to be crushing. And you know what's gonna be for sale there?
What?
A Sammy Hagar era cassette of Van Halen. And every time we find one, I am relentlessly mocking you with it.
Okay, about 3 o'clock this morning, I'm going to wake up in a cold sweat, realizing I had a better example. And I'm going to come down here to the studio.
And fix it.
I'm going to fix it. I'm going to record that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's
That's
good.
the power
your
of the edit.
prerogative.
That's
That
the
is
power
your
of the edit.
prerogative. Yeah. We do give you the keys.
Yeah.
I may need to call you guys to come down also.
If we
for
make
the
you do
minutes.
all the other work about cleaning out all my bad language, then by all means, that's the power of the edit. We turn it over. Anyhow, got a big one tonight.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
Yep, it's going to be fun. Looking forward to it.
Settle in.
It's going to be good, Sheep.
Yep. Call the appointment. Tell them you're going to be a few minutes late.
Yep. Or maybe just stay in the car because,
Don't close the garage door.
No.
We do not want you.
Don't open the garage door either.
If you
Because the fam knows you're home then.
Yeah.
Just sit in the car for a second.
I'm saying
Hope the wife doesn't start walking
3 or
the
4
dogs.
houses up the street. Maybe an extra stop or 2 on the public transit.
Sure.
Whatever you got to do, buy yourself an extra time. Because we would like to keep you company.
It's going to be a good one. Stick around.
Sheep. I know there's going to come a point when you maybe have run out of BHHcast episodes that you can listen to. While you're waiting on a new one to drop, as they say, let me make a suggestion that you check out Scott Curtis's Behind the Bits podcast. It won a Discover Pod Award, which is not for eating laundry detergent.
No.
It is for best interview style podcast.
Yeah.
He has a new comic guest every week. Some are household names that you would know. Others are people whose names you perhaps should know. And they tell you a little bit about what goes into their path to becoming the successful comedian that they are. Moves right along. It's interesting, in-depth. It's
a great show.
You should check it out.
Who did win the laundry detergent eating award at the Discover Pods?
Actually, I heard that nobody won. I heard they tied.
Oh! Look at who's got humor tonight. Look at the big brain on this guy.
Hang on a second. I think I know somebody else who could benefit from listening to some of the comedians on the Behind the Biz podcast and shape up that
comedy routine.
weak pun.
Check it out, Sheep. We got more comedy for you over there. And then, come on back after you're done listening to some Behind the Bits.
Jimmy, your set list has a stain in it that will never come out, no matter how much detergent you use.
Fair enough. All right, folks, check out the Behind the Bits podcast. You can find it on any of the places that you find podcasts.
Check out the podcast, and you will come away both informed and entertained. All right, Sheep, welcome back to the podcast. I am Jamie Bendel, Jamie Hernan, Adam Haig.
This is going to be a good one, Sheep, so ringing the bell.
It always sounds like a disservice to other guests to say, I'm excited about this next guest, which implies previous guests not so excited about. However, there's continuity between episodes where hosts are always excited about their guests. In this case, I think this may be the first time that we actually have a New York Times best-selling author as part of the podcast.
I'm excited.
Thank you so much. I hope that I will be one of just thousands you have on
I would
at
love
some
to
point.
think that. But so the backstory here, our guest this evening is Gaby Dunn. If you don't listen to any of her podcast content, she is also a writer. She is also, I guess I would consider you also a producer. Would you say you produce as well?
Yeah,
Creator?
in terms of like YouTube, yeah, we did YouTube stuff and creators. So it sounds big. I mean, I usually just say writer because that kind of encompasses everything. But my dad, I got a journalism degree. So if I say writer, my dad is like, aha, she's using her degree. Like,
So there you go. She's a writer.
But I love the origin story, if people aren't familiar with it, which I understand as this project to really go out and interview a bunch of people.
Yes, that is. Yes, I was actually talking about this today, and I haven't talked about this in so long because it was like 2009. But yeah, the first big thing I ever did on the internet was I started a blog called 100 Interviews, and the idea was just that I would write about my life and also interview 100 people in a year, just to learn about like people who aren't me. So I would write about myself, and I would also write about them, and it was just like random people and getting their life stories or whatever. And that, for some reason, caught the attention of the Village Voice, rest in peace. And they wrote a little thing about it. And then from there, it got like a lot of followers and readers. And then that was, I got like a book agent from it where we didn't end up writing a book and nobody bought my book. And, these little starts that you get where you're like, ooh, like this is going to be a thing. And then it's not a thing. But that was the first thing I ever did, and one of the people who read that blog was like my first TV agent out in LA. Just because I was like, I posted one day on that blog like, hey, I've written scripts too. If you guys are fans of this blog, maybe you'll want to read a script. And one of those people, yeah.
So let me ask you this. Now, all of these years later, your life has changed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How many of those people would you swap out for different people? Do you think it would be the same kind of project if you embarked on it as a 2022 project to say, I'm going to go back and I'm going to interview a different 100 people?
Huh. That's a really interesting question. I think it would be different because there was a lot of stuff that I didn't really know that much about. Obviously, that's the point of interviewing. But I remember I interviewed someone who had survived Hurricane Katrina, and that was really an intense, but also an uplifting story. But I think now, if I were to redo it, I would maybe have more questions about the structural failures of things. I think I was just very young, and I was very, and in some ways it's good because I was focused on the actual people. And so I wrote about their lives and stuff, but I wasn't so politically aware that I included anything that was not controversial, but just that I don't think I included my own politics or my own, I think I'm basically over time I've become more leftist. And so I think I'm just I think I was a little bit, I had this shine to me where I believed that journalism was objective. And so a lot of the stuff that I worked on, I was this is going to sound, you guys, this is going to sound so naive. But when I was in school for journalism, there was a thing that you shouldn't register to vote with a political party because it might make you look biased. And so we were told not to register with a political party because if you were reporting on politics, people might be well, she's got an opinion. And now you can't go and look at any sort of political reporting without understanding the political bent of the publication or of the reporter.
Gabby, but I would actually go one step further and say I might not choose to get a surgery from an orthopedist who was registered as a Republican.
Absolutely.
Right?
I know. And that's where we're at now in 2021. And I don't think me in 2009 doing this blog, I don't think I could have predicted that. I really believed in the objective importance of the art of journalism. You know what I mean? And now I look back at my old Facebook posts and I'm God, you were so self-righteous and you had no idea what was coming.
That's so great.
I think I would go to an anger management counselor who was a Republican because I feel like they've got a lot of
putting it down
experience, a lot of clientele they're working with now.
It's interesting because now as we listen to your current podcast, we see that you're very both you and Allison are very much out and open with regard to your politics and with regard to kind of your belief systems. And so it's interesting that you've evolved like that you came from being, I got to keep all this stuff quiet to not only we're not going to keep it quiet, but we're actually going to put it on the front page and we're going to talk about it.
Well, but so, all right. So
the times have changed.
Yeah, definitely.
So do you feel like that's an expectation? So this is what we struggle with, right? And we talk about this all the time amongst ourselves, which is, I think sometimes, and whether you're a comedian or maybe if you're a singer, if you're a person who maybe does want to get into politics, if you are doing a podcast, if you are becoming a writer, I get this sense that you pull so many punches early as you're getting those things going for fear that there will be negative consequences in quote unquote whatever your real life is.
Yeah, of course. I'm lucky that my parents they didn't really care. They gave anything that I've worked on or done. They didn't really. They weren't no, don't be out, or they weren't no, don't talk about this aspect of our lives or whatever. Not that my mom has a lot of problems with my financial podcast, Bad with Money, because I talk about how I grew up in my money situation, and she has equated growing up without money to somehow I'm saying she's a bad mom, which is just with the amount that I talk about the structural failings and governmental failings that led to this kind of thing. She's but people will think I was a bad mother, which nobody will think that. But so people don't like it. People don't like to be talked about. They don't and so, my comedy partner too, there's a lot of stuff that she has told me she's not going to write about till her parents are dead. Like, that's so wild to me.
It seems, but do you think that some of that is driven by a shift in technology? And by that, I mean, I think that over time, we have agreed we're going to reveal more about ourselves, either implicitly or explicitly. And that our comfort level with it has lessened the number of things that you're not supposed to talk about or that you shouldn't talk about.
Yes. But now I've gone full circle the other way. Like, I've spent 10 years basically living my life online. And now starting in the fall, I don't have Twitter. Like, I'm off Twitter. I've started becoming a little bit more private and pulling back a lot. I think like a lot of the stuff, even if it seems like someone is living their life fully online, I think I was playing a character in some ways. And so it was helpful to me to know that I was curating some of it, but it is a mindfuck when people believe that to 100% be you. And of course, like, I'm using my real name. The character is me, Gaby Dunn. So like, they'll believe, oh, that's you. That's what you're really like. And you know, I've struggled with people think that you are the last thing they saw you do. So if the first thing that someone sees of me is a video I made in 2014, it doesn't matter that I made it in 2014. It matters that they saw it yesterday. And so that is really hard to come to terms with, and really hard to figure out who you are separate from what you've created online. And so now at 32, I've pulled back a little bit with that, and I feel less pressure with that. And maybe that's a privilege because I did spend 10 years sort of giving everything away. And so now I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to just focus on my work, and I don't need to, I think I'm like, I would rather write my scripts quietly, and like, I don't need to be in everything, and I don't need to be posting all the time. And part of me is like, okay, maybe that's more of a distraction than a help to me at this point. But in the beginning, it was kind of like hard to know what was really you, because people had such ideas of what I was like. I mean, the character that I played was like, was very like militant in her views. And so people would come at me on the internet wanting to fight, expecting that me, the real me, would want to fight. And oftentimes, if someone has like an opinion that's different than mine and they're making a lot of sense, I'll be like, yeah, totally. Like, I get it. I see it. But because like they thought that I was 24/7 open to fighting. And so it's hard to, I think sometimes it lets people view other people on the internet as characters and not as human beings, and feelings and debates and interactions as content rather than like lived experiences. And so I've pulled back a little because I've found it to be increasingly unhealthy.
So let me ask you this, and maybe it's a different. Did you have you were going to say?
No, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, you should really.
No, you should say.
Honestly, what you should do is bogart the whole interview.
No, I'm sorry. Well, sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
see,
jumping in. I'm interested in the conversation with Gaby here.
You're listening to the podcast with Jamie
and no one else. But at the end of the day,
actually, can I just point out one thing?
Yeah.
I'm really stuck. I'm really nervous now to listen to you and Allison going forward, because I'm afraid if I hear her talk about her parents, I'm just going to feel this sense of grief for her, because I'm going to be afraid that her parents have died because she's talking about her parents.
No, she loves them. Don't ever, like, knock on wood. Those are like her best friends.
Oh, no,
so
I'm
don't
not
worry.
wishing
Everything is going well for them and her.
Okay.
So hold on a second. Let's go back to that specifically. If you're a regular listener to the podcast, unless, and again, I don't, talking about sidetracking an interview.
Here we go again.
There will be some precursors, like, oh, Allison's parents are not doing well. Right? You'll know that there will be a lead up to this thing that happens. And then I would assume give the person a chance to maybe grieve the loss of her parents, and then finally reveal what she believes to be the comedic truth she couldn't tell up until this point about whatever the upbringing is. Right?
But I think people are, I've seen a lot of people living that kind of thing, especially in COVID, like in real time, which is new, right? Because normally you wouldn't be able to just hop on and tell a group of people that you got dumped, or that your mom died, or that, all these kinds of things that I think are happening in real time versus having the moment to reflect on it and put it in a script or put it in a joke. You know what I mean? Like once you write something as a stand-up, like once you write something as a joke, you clearly sat and had time with it.
No, you're right. And I want to explore a little bit though, is as we talk about kind of the parental role and that. So obviously, so we're all guys in our late 40s, right? There's an age gap between us and you, right? And but
Wait a minute, if you're about to group me in
as
with,
the old
with
fogies,
planting a flag and ascribing to me some rough age group assigned.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just saying we're all fathers. Yeah, we're all fathers, and we're all actually fathers of girls and boys. And one of the things that I find listening to your podcast that resonates with me is just you're incredible. You're, and maybe it's your character, but you sound very secure and very healthy. And maybe it is a character more than a real person, but. As we look as the older as old fathers looking at our daughters and our sons that we're bringing up, what do you ascribe that to? That you've come through? So many people don't come through in a secure, healthy world. Why do you ascribe that to? That you're able to do what you do and go on at all these different venues and have these intense discussions about intense topics pretty freely.
Yeah, I don't know, because when I got to LA, I did a lot of projects with people and they just kind of never went anywhere. And then one of the things that, Allison and I are so different, but one of the things that I always say is why it worked out with us is that we both just finished things. So like we got together and we were like, we're going to make this show, and we made the show and we both like were honest and talked about what we needed to talk about. And then we felt the ambition or whatever it is inside of you that lets you hit publish. Because so many people make things and are just, I can't show anyone, this is my one perfect thing, this has to be perfect before I do anything with it. And me and Allison were both the types of people who were just like, just hit publish and then we'll make another one. If that one doesn't do well, we'll just make another one. If that one doesn't do well, we'll just make another one. And we just kept hitting publish. And that, I think, like, it is either some weird lack of shame or some weird impulse. Because, like, even, and it's, I tell this story a lot because I think it is really useful for artists or for people that want to do something, is that when I first started making stuff on the internet, it was not good. It was just like videos, little vlogs that I was making. And a friend of mine from college emailed me this long email, and he was like, what you're doing is embarrassing. Like, your content's not good. Like, you need to stop. You're like really making a fool of yourself. Like, everyone thinks that like this stuff that you're putting on the internet is like really embarrassing, and like you should stop promoting it. And they were just like little vlogs or whatever. And I was like devastated, but not enough to stop, because I was just like, and over time, like, I kept doing stuff. And like, I knew that people in maybe the comedy sphere or whatever with me were sort of like, okay, weirdo, or like thought that it was embarrassing or whatever. And it probably was, but like, I don't know what happened. Like, that guy was in the comedy scene with me. I don't know what happened to him. Like, I ended up
not something good if you don't know.
That's right.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, there were people, and this is the thing, right? There were people I was in a comedy troupe in college. There were people in my comedy troupe. I would say there are 4 people I can think of off the top of my head who were much funnier than me. But what happened to them? They didn't make things. They didn't continue. They didn't feel like they could. They felt embarrassed. Everything they needed to make was going to be perfect, and they had to have it be perfect, and they wouldn't, make a podcast unless it was perfect, and all this kind of stuff. And none of them work in comedy.
I got to tell you though. So I think that, one, I agree that perspective about it needs to be right, it needs to be good, it needs to, and the perception.
You don't get good.
Well, but more importantly, nobody cares. Like, so, and we talked about, so you see people like post like, I'm going to be at the pizza place on Tuesday telling jokes, and then I'm going to be at the beer place, and then I'm going to be at the whatever, right? And there is this element of you have to get out and do. And it's only through that process that you can figure out what is it that I'm supposed to be saying. And I feel like if your attitude and your perspective is anybody is paying attention to this, then you will always set yourself up for failure, because the reality is nobody is paying attention to the overwhelming majority of your failures.
Yep, totally.
Right?
And or they don't even know about it.
That's what I mean.
Right.
They don't
I
even
didn't know about your book that didn't sell, right? That you talked about
Nobody
earlier in the
has any idea.
podcast, right?
Yeah, I didn't know the show that nobody came to, right? So when you go, how was the show on Tuesday night? You'd be like, the show was great. No, nobody knows how many people were there or weren't.
But to Gabby's point, she finishes, right? She just keeps finishing and finishing and finishing until.
But I also think that I believe that there's a disconnect between the idea of like zero tolerance, right? The concept of zero tolerance. And I feel like if you hold this position that you are accountable for any mistake or misstep, you don't create the space that's needed for creative growth.
Right.
There has to be massive forgiveness in the context of what I said at 2014 as a different person, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't want to be starting out my career right now. Like I am very lucky to be able to just be like, I don't want to be on Twitter. And I would encourage, I mean, I don't know how feasible this is, but I feel like I want to do my work in private, and I want to do my work, like, I want my work to get made and go out and do stuff, but like, I don't want to then answer questions about it. Like, I feel like I'm at a point where like my work is like, I said what I said, you know? And I think the hole that a lot of people get into is like wasting away trying to explain stuff on social media. And I feel like that's the thing that's going to have to really change, is just like, your work is, you said what you said. Like, you don't, the painter doesn't stand next to the painting and go like, well, actually what I meant was, and this is why, but like, it's just like, no, you put it up. And then if people have a reaction to it, that's, you've done your part, which is create the thing, and they've done their part, which is react. And that's it.
Right.
And I hope that we get back to that place.
Yeah, and in the context of a podcast, for example, I mean, think about how many podcasts have gone one episode and it was posted and there's no reaction to it because nobody knows it exists and people stop.
Nobody's going to know it exists till like episode 20. Like, it's fine.
It's totally fine. And in addition, I think that they are in their own way. So comedy sets, right? You watch, and honestly, I would make the argument that most comedy specials age poorly.
Of course.
Right? You go back and look at any of even the classics, right? And it's like kind of sacrosanct that people would ever go back and criticize like a great comedy album of the past. But a lot
Eddie
of them,
Murphy criticizes his own comedy album.
Yeah.
I read really, you know, it's interesting because like people laud his early stuff, but I read an article with him, or a couple articles with him, where he was just like, oh yeah, some of that was like, I was really talking out of my ass and I have no idea what I was saying. Like, you know, like that's not great. You know, like I think like they lionize, and then the actual creator of the thing is like, it could have been better.
It could have been better. It could have been different, right? And everybody goes through that. So I think that that's part of the creative process. And I think to Adam's question is, I get the sense, both listening to your work, but then also having participated in this conversation with you, is it sounds like you have, in some respects, you have found your voice, right? And and I mean that to say you have a better handle on how to say what you want to say, even if what you want to say changes over time.
Sometimes I really am like, why did I do that?
So what's a good example of a why did I do that?
Oh God, you know, I don't know. Half the things that I think are going to be controversial, nobody cares, and then I'll like post. That's why I'm off Twitter, because then I'll post something that I think is like so obvious, and it'll be like, that'll be the one that everyone like. I just don't. It's very, the unpredictable nature of it really did not do well with my need to shoot my mouth off constantly. Like, why do I need to fight with people? Why do I need to argue with people? Like, why do I
some
need
people
to...
need to be fought with, though. Don't you feel like sometimes that
Not
they're...
by me. I'm out.
It's too much effort
out.
sometimes. And by the way, they're
That's
not listening
someone else's
anyhow.
job.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have someone that you can just bring in as your ringer. You're like, oh, here's a fight.
Yeah.
Can you just continue and finish this for me?
Yeah, that's
I'm
when
gonna
you're.
go
That's
take
when
a
you've
nap
really
or read a
made it.
book.
When your social media is curated by someone who just fights for you, right?
that'd be so nice.
Just call in the bouncer to have the
That
fight
would
with the
be-
trolls.
Lovely.
Okay, so listen, I don't want to tell you how to run your lives, but if you just give somebody else your login information, you can do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
well,
it's
that's
not
actually
that-
a really good business
There we go.
idea.
Yeah.
Someone's like, "Hi, I see you got." It's like an infomercial. Like, I see you got into a fight with someone on Twitter. I'll take, for some small fee, I'll take over that
That
fight.
takes a lot of energy.
Nice.
That was the pain. That ruined your whole afternoon. Don't
just-
let this happen to you.
Yeah, there's just
hire
people on
me.
Fiverr who
Just hire me, and I'll finish out the conversation and deal with the troll for
I
the
will
rest
tell
of the
you.
3 weeks.
So here's what I've started to do, Gabby. I have posted less politically oriented stuff on my personal like Facebook page, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, I am freely expressing my views on other people's as comments to other people's posts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That I definitely feel like I am, and I know this is a poor maybe analogy to use to express it, but they are ideologically on the side of the road with a broken down car, and here I come with a little truth bomb in the comments to be like, as a matter of fact,
I deleted Facebook.
Good for you.
I have a roommate who's younger, and she will come in the house and be like already talking about something that happened on Twitter that like I should know about, and I'll be like, you know what I did today? Nothing. I didn't engage with any. I have no idea. Like I live in but between the two of us now, I live in a different universe.
I love the fact that Bendel earlier complained about being put in a category of the, middle-aged guy, but then he referenced Facebook, which put him squarely in that category of middle-aged guy.
Right.
Hang on a second.
How's your MySpace account working still?
First of all,
Oh my God, I would go back to MySpace in a heartbeat. MySpace was where we were all safe. We were so safe there.
Right. It was just exchanging music, basically.
okay.
Bring MySpace back. Hashtag bring MySpace back.
Right? MySpace. I will tell you the only other thing that I'm doing on Facebook now, which I'm really actually enjoying, because you got to have a gimmick. You got to have a thing. I am reposting cars for sale where people have included a photograph of their dog.
That's it.
Okay.
And,
So if they have a dog picture.
Dog not included.
Dog not included.
I would only, but that could be your whole Instagram page.
Yeah, dog not included. Right?
Dog
And
not included.
the only-
at dog not included.
Dog not included, right? And
Love
it's
it.
just like, why is the dog in the picture of your old car? And my
Because
second
dogs
favorite thing-
sell. Dogs sell.
it's the craziest thing of like, why in the world?
Puppies
But
sell.
that, and there is, you want to know why QAnon exists? Because people think they still have to cover up their license plate in the picture of their car for sale. And they put a thumb over it or a fist.
But Facebook is part of that problem.
100%.
Oh, 100%.
So, I mean, it has really come full circle to like, don't tell anyone your information on the internet is dangerous, to, oh my God, no, just like be totally open on the internet, back to, I think everyone should have private accounts so nobody gets in trouble. You know what I mean? Like we've gone fully back around to like, don't tell anyone anything.
Well, what you realize is how tenuous because obviously in your case, right, any person who tries to make an income support themselves from the standpoint of their creative endeavors, right? You are always at risk that those things could be taken away from you by a misstep that is a byproduct of having to live in some public fashion.
Yep, nailed it. That's it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, which is really perverse in some respects. So the machine wants participation, but yet it is a very fickle machine at that.
Yep. And so I've decided to opt out, and I've just been trying to focus more on just like writing by myself. But I'm fully aware that the reason I'm able to do that is because I engaged with this machine for 10 years, which occasionally there were multiple times where it's bitten me, and then I've come back and it's bitten me again. Like I was like joking with my partner that I'm going to call my memoir like To Canceled and Back. Like it's just like, and then so like it's like a bad addiction that I'm like, now I'm like, okay, I engaged with that for 10 years. It was like probably super harmful, but also helped my career, but also made me miserable. And now that I put in that decade, I can just sit here quietly and write my script. But like that's a privilege that I have now because I engaged with this like thing that also did at times really was detrimental to my career. So I don't know. I wouldn't want to be starting now.
Right.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to completely disrespect the timeline of the interview and just say that I would love to see Eddie Murphy go back and do one of his classic specials, same jokes, but just rewritten as he would tell them today.
That would be incredible.
You couldn't do that. I don't think that's possible. I don't think that comedians can.
It's my dream, Bendel. I just said that this is a dream that I have,
First
and
of
you
all,
just crushed my dream.
Your dreams are not real life.
Nope.
No. I said it's a dream.
In fact, that's why they're called
Gaby
dreams.
Clearly supported me on
It'd
it.
be really fun.
Yeah.
I think so. There was a time. I'm gonna fix your idea for you, Jamie.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, because
Fixer.
the idea is sort of broken. There was a time period back when I think country music television was a thing, where they would do two different genre artists, one of course always being country, together singing each other's songs.
Oh, I love that.
I think you should say they should do like a special where, say, Seinfeld does Eddie Murphy's Raw.
I kind of love that.
Right? Eddie Murphy then does Seinfeld's 24 Hours.
Damn you, Bendel.
That's good
I
stuff.
kind of love that idea.
Yeah.
You just switch. It's either that or you have the one comic write jokes that have to be said by the other comic. That's a different show, but that'd be kind of fun.
That would be a great show.
Yes.
Yeah, if you had to, if it was almost like the Great Cake Bake Off, but with premises,
Yes.
right?
The great premise.
Okay, well, first of all, it's called the Great British Bake Off, but I love that you called it the Great Cake Bake Off.
You know what I meant? Yeah, whatever. Right?
Yeah,
But that would be hilarious.
it would. Yes, it would be. And like, but I also would love to see them break down. Like, okay, so I would also love to see them be like, here's how I would tell this now, or here's what I would do with this premise now, versus like at that time. I mean, they're all time capsules, really.
Totally.
But Jamie one up in my dream there is why he gets first billing as Jamie on the podcast. He's
Yep.
the
And the
first
other
Jamie.
Jamie is second Jamie.
Yeah, on the other Jamie.
Second Jamie, and then I
Backup Jamie.
kind of bring in the end with the really long introduction.
Did you watch Oprah and Harry and Meghan Markle?
I did not. Look,
I
I
didn't.
didn't even know
I
it
didn't either.
happened. This is how off Twitter I am. I
Good
had
for
no
you.
idea. I had no idea it happened. My like roommate had to come in and be like, "Oh my god!" So the Meghan Markle thing, and I was like, "I literally have no idea what you're talking about." I live in space now. I don't know anything that's going on.
It sounds healthy though. It sounds pretty healthy.
It is.
Yeah.
It isn't it? It is, but also
You're
I'll
disconnected.
get like no. I'll get like okay, so we want you to do a packet for this late night show. Here's like 5. You need to do 5 topical jokes, and I'm like,
Right.
I got nothing.
I'm kind of
You know what the worst part about that is, I think, is that you realize if you do spend any time on Twitter, like the 10 most obvious jokes on that topic have been done 1,000 times.
Yeah. And also it's like, I feel like when my parents watch SNL and they're like, we don't know who the guest is. We don't know who the musical guest is. It's like who I am now. I'm just like, I have no concept of any, but you know what? Like my parents get along fine. Like the world is still moving. That's what's been the great lesson is that like it's less competition because like I'm just like the world's still going. Like I don't have to be the first one to this joke.
I have to
Okay,
be
but
honest.
so-
Thank God my parents are not on Twitter. Oh my God.
right.
No, my mom's on Twitter, but she just tweets at Brian Williams and Jimmy Fallon, and I really don't know why.
That's awesome.
That's a disparate group of
She's
people to
crushing
tweet
on
at,
Brian and Jimmy. Yeah,
right?
that's okay.
Yeah, I guess they're both on at 11. So having said all of that, you have spent a considerable amount of time offering advice to other people.
Yes.
Okay. So in all of that advice that you have given, is there anything that you've really essentially distilled it all down to, that no matter what the problem that somebody, so I think that sometimes we have a tendency to think that our problems, our issues are unique. And the reality is they're not. Right?
Here's one. Just no is a complete sentence. You don't need to tell anyone why not.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to tell anyone, like, you don't need to work yourself up into a tizzy or whatever. People are going to be mad at you. They'll be upset and they'll, like, you know, but like, if you don't want, like, saying I don't want to is enough of a reason. Just if someone, it just no, and then why? I don't want to. That's it. You're done.
And we're out. You're like, no,
And
I don't want to.
And I actually think that if you did that more,
Yeah.
it's easier to say.
It's easier to say, and people will stop asking you.
Yeah. I think I think that people underestimate the degree to which they respect the honesty. Because to me, for a lot of times, some of it just distills down to what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Right? And
just do that. Like, everything else is a waste of time. And, like, if you don't, and, like, you know, people get, I mean, a lot of the advice is, like, people being like, but then this person will be mad at me, or I don't, you know, how do I make this person, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, honestly, it's none of your business how someone else feels about you.
Right.
So, like, if you just, like, it just started because I have a friend who will just be like, no. And then you say why, and they go, I don't want to. And I was like, I'm taking that. Like, that is.
Right. Where do you go after that, right? If you say, I don't want to, well, then there you go. Okay. Because what are you going to say? Yeah.
Which actually.
Or the best case scenario, the other person goes, oh, okay. And then gives you an alternate plan.
Right.
Well,
amazing.
The worst thing is when you say, oh, I can't do it. Like somebody says, hey, you want to come over to our house for dinner? And you don't really want to, rather than say, I can't do it this week. You're going to have to beg off on it in a week or two. It is actually much better to just say, like, I don't think that's really something that appeals to me.
I don't really want to go over.
Think you're rude.
No, but I just don't want to go to their house for their. I don't really go to like going to people's houses for.
Yeah, that's not going to work for me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. You could say the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is kind of hurtful though when I invite Adam or Jamie over to hang out or have a beer and they just say no. And it's not just no, it's no period.
Well,
there's punctuation to it.
Together. Yeah, you work together, so that's a little tricky. But yeah, it's nobody's, like, for me, it's like, it's nobody's business. It's hard because my friends, a lot of it is like, but this person will think this, but this person will think that. And I think I'm lucky sometimes in that I have a bit of a, like, well, they seem mad. And, like, that seems to be a thing that they're feeling, and I can't really control that. And, oh, well. And let me tell you, a lot of people don't like me.
But it is empowering, I think, that you do give advice, but you do feel strong enough to say, look, I'm the one creating the content here. I'm going to give you advice. That doesn't make you entitled to get any more than I'm willing to give. That seems kind of a healthy way to control in a world like this.
The problem is that, like, for me, like, let's say 1 million subscribers, like 1 million people know who I am. I don't like everybody I've ever seen or ever met. Like, wow, how could I expect 1 million people to all like me? There's no world in which I have control over that. And, like, some people, like I said, like, people maybe saw something I made in 2015 and they didn't like it and they haven't checked in since then. And then when someone's like, do you like Gaby Dunn? They're like, no. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
And it doesn't really matter if @AngryTroll751 from Poughkeepsie doesn't really like you, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like, okay, like, I get it. There's tons of people I don't like.
So I maintain that every comedian has a 100% failure rate on every bit. That even at that Eddie Murphy Raw or whoever, only since we've referenced him a couple of times, that in that show, in that theater, every single punchline, there's somebody in the audience who says, that one doesn't work for me.
Yes, exactly.
And once you accept the fact that every joke you ever tell, even your best jokes that will make you the most money, the logo goes on the t-shirt, it gets turned into a sitcom, it's a failure. It is the most freeing thing.
I just envision the future of comedy where there's some sort of facial recognition that if somebody just has not laughed at all and you're 30% into the show, the usher just come and
pull them.
Okay, I'm going to tell
That'd
you.
be amazing.
Okay, and you would know, right? I mean, you've had experiences where you're doing that thing. You can be on stage, you can be crushing in the audience, and there's somebody whose body language you don't like, and you will ignore every other person in the audience.
Focus on the guy who's
focus
critical
on
of your
how
act.
do I figure out how to get a stupid laugh out of this person.
Yep. Yeah.
I've given up. I'm just
that'll
like
kill you.
I'm just like, you know, like every song I hear isn't my favorite song. Like every comedian I see isn't my favorite comedian. Like I can't expect everyone to come away from my work and me, because of the internet, not really having control over what work of mine they see first. It's like, yeah, not for you, I guess. Like if the one guy in the audience isn't laughing, I'm sort of like, okay, like that wasn't for you.
Right.
So Gabby, I thought about this. I thought about you this way before the interview, and I now this interview has reinforced that entirely. That I'm blown away with, and honestly, so I'm.
Are you
47. I'm about to
hold on a
47 it
second.
again because I'll be honest with you. The truth is that your life knowledge has come. You're pretty far along. Like if I'd known that when I was your age, I barely figured that out last week. Right? And so you're doing pretty good, kid. Keep it up, right? You're doing great.
Thank you.
And along those lines, we have
everything you've just said right now, probably not making the final cut of the podcast.
Why not?
It just sounds.
I do have stock.
I think it's great.
Audio of him trying to become best friends with the guest.
Oh yeah. Well,
So
honestly,
I can-
do that.
yeah.
I
Honestly,
think
I
that's a
love
whole
I love
separate
being
episode.
friends with our guests. What can I say?
You
And by the
should-
way, Gabby wins the friend award probably, and we say this with I say this with every. I want to be best friends with her. That's all there's to
Okay,
it.
I think.
And it'd be
Please
awkward
put
because I'm
together
an
a
old
whole
man and you're young, but
episode. Put together a whole compilation episode of every time he says that, and then just be like, "Welcome to the friendliest podcast of all time."
there we go.
Right.
Yeah, the
There we
problem
go.
is a 2 to 3 hour podcast
Adam-
doesn't really go over.
Rather than everybody loves Raymond, it's Adam loves everybody.
Everyone loves
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah. So
You would have just been more succinct if you had just simply said, having had the time really to get to know you, be in this conversation, I'm going to give you back the 2 points that I normally detract from people who come from Florida.
yeah, it's true. She would
have understood.
She's definitely won over her 2 points.
She would have gotten it.
Yeah.
I did it.
So we
All right.
we do ask guests questions that I think will even bring forth your.
All right.
Okay,
And-
I'm going to stop and let Jamie go.
Yeah. They've been desperate. We've been having such a nice conversation, and Jamie has been vigorously waving a Post-it note
To the point where he actually bought a billboard outside while we
Yeah.
were talking
He's like,
and
Oh,
put it
wow.
up on a billboard and says, hey,
Please
you have to ask this
these
question.
questions. Okay, so we ask every guest who appears on the show, are you familiar with the concept of a meat and 3 restaurant?
No.
All right.
What is that?
A meat and 3 restaurant is a cafeteria style, very commonplace throughout the South and Midwest, where you go in and you pick an entree, that is your meat, and then you get to pick 3 sides with it.
So they're kind of like, do you want chicken or steak? And then you get, your veggies to go along with it. Yeah.
Okay. We asked that question in this context. In your life, what is the meat? What is the thing, the organizing principle, the philosophy around which you organize the rest of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I truly think it is like it is this. I mean, recently it is this idea of like it was this billboard that I saw, or this piece of art that I saw that was like, you don't like everybody, so stop expecting everybody to like you. And that was like super freeing.
Okay.
And so I've really been centering a lot of my stuff around that, and also not like just like likability in general, like being okay with being unlikable.
All right. So if that's the anchor, then what are the 3 attributes that you would like people to most commonly associate with you?
Confident and like being interesting, having new thoughts and new things to say, but also being interested in other people. So wanting to hear other people's thoughts, wanting to like being interested and interesting. And then I think being willing to change, like fluidity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are great.
I like it. Those
Yeah.
are all good. Do you have any questions of us?
No. I'm glad. I'm happy. I'm happy for you guys doing your podcast, and I hope there are a million episodes.
We are going to probably have to talk quicker and be more concise in some of our interviews if we're going to get to a million episodes.
And apparently I need to stop being so nice to the guests. Right? Jeez.
I think you should stay nice to the guests.
Thank you very much.
You should be true to who you are.
Take that, Jamie.
Just be true to who you are.
I am.
We talk about that all the time. I think it's a real challenge. And I think that unfortunately it's not unusual that children talk about the rigidity of their parents, in part because there is a massive tendency. I think it's two things. I think you reach a point in your life where you perceive your life to be fixed. And as a result, you can get stuck in some beliefs, you can be stuck in some perspectives, and there are what you perceive to be social costs for changing those perspectives. It may mean you lose some friends, it may mean you put your financial well-being at risk. And then I think you become freed elderly person, where
Can't wait.
you will say anything that crosses your mind at the moment at which it hits your tongue.
Truly can't wait for that.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's driven by the fact that you realize the end is here.
Right.
And you have wasted the opportunity
To be fluid.
to be fluid and to be and to actually be who you are.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
What Bendel's saying, Adam, is that you need to be more selective because we're going to have a rule that if you try to become the best friend of a guest,
Yep.
you can't become the best friend of the next guest.
Okay.
So you have to.
Well, I've seen who we're booked next, so I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the interview and the kindness.
All right. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to join us and spend some time with us here. And we do encourage people to really consume all of the content you have created, and it is very plentiful.
I know you're talking about being off social media, but if people wanted to find you, where do you want them to find you?
Yeah. I'm on Instagram at Gaby Road, GabyRoad. And then the Bad with Money podcast comes out March 31st. It's my brand new season. And then I'm on the Just Between Us podcast, which is every Wednesday and Friday. So go listen to those.
Yep, they're great. All of those.
Yeah.
Yep. Those
And they're
are all
very
great.
distinct.
Thank
They're
you
not the
so
same.
much, guys.
Yeah, totally.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks, Gabby.
Thanks, Gabby. It's been a lot of fun.
Bye.
All right, Sheep. Gaby Dunn, if you are not following her, listening to the content she creates, she will actually reduce, I think, some of the shame, I'm going to say, that people have around their lack of knowledge of money issues and how some of the things that you may struggle with financially aren't necessarily unique to you or arguably your fault, that there are some structural things that cause all people to have challenges with money. And then, of course, the Just Between Us podcast is really quite enjoyable as well. She and Allison do a great job on that.
Yeah,
Did you like it?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of
I
fun.
thought it was great.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it was wonderful.
What a great.
Good time.
Yeah.
I crushed it.
Well,
I mean, I felt like
you did take up 90% of the interview, but
Yeah, if you take up 30 minutes of the 45-minute interview, you're bound to have 2 or 3 minutes
I don't
of
think
good
it's going to
content.
be. I don't think it's
and
going
yet
to be
you
30.
accused me of gushing. Yeah,
I don't think it's
yeah,
gonna be
he
30.
couldn't stop talking. Yeah.
I mean, I thought I was. I carried my weight.
I mean,
Yeah.
thank God we're not being paid per word.
No, because honestly, you and I would be bankrupt
Yeah.
at this point.
Couldn't afford me.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, we definitely
I
could.
mean, come on. We
Yeah.
got to get with the people who book the sponsors for this show.
Yeah. Honestly, there's so much hot air on the other side.
the
We could
rate.
literally.
I actually
power
was getting
18
a little
balloons.
sweaty during the interview. I
Yeah.
felt like the temperature in the room was up, and that could have been all the heat that I was bringing.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was substantial.
It was substantial.
All right, sheep.
It was a good one. Yeah. Enjoy, sheep. You can go off. Enjoy.
Go back to doing whatever it is you're doing, sheep. Taka taka.
Back to the fields. BHHcast.